Welcome back. Thank you for viewing MCTV, Multicultural TV, and staying with us on Brighter Morning with Bo. I am Bo Tiwari. My guest is Fazal Karim, and let's get him on the line. We've lost a lot of time, so let's see. Fazal, good morning. Good morning. I'm sorry we got to you so late. Ramona asked for a change because of her commitments to her children.
Good morning, Dr. Tiwari.
Good morning.
And thank you very much for having me on the program.
No problem at all. So we will get straight to it. Is there anything in the budget that pleased you about education or higher education? And is there anything that worries you or you feel was not dealt with that is an essential that should be dealt with? Did you hear the question? Did you hear the question? I can see you, hear you.
Well, first of all, let me say, Dr. Tiwari, that from the perspective of education and training, and particularly in terms of the Ministry of Tertiary Education, which I had the honor to lead, I was a bit disappointed in the presentation that I didn't see very many policy direction issues. What I saw was not a very coherent strategy in terms of how do we move the nation forward. And I am at this point reading into the budget as well that there's a concept of moving towards the intelligent nation, the intelligent island. That reminds me very much of Singapore. And I recall when you were there, Dr. Tiwari, you had spoken and we had spoken consistently about creating the knowledge-based economy. So I was a little bit disappointed in that. But you know, if I say I'm disappointed, the minister will say, like he used to always say when we were there in the parliament, that the details will come when the relevant minister makes, in this case, her presentation in the budget debate. But I think I want to substantiate what I'm saying in terms of this lack of coherent strategy. In that, one of the things that I notice is that while so much is being said to be done, that the budget has really been decreased for the Ministry of Education from $7.9 billion in 2021 to $6.8 billion in 2022. So they really have to indicate how are they going to do all that they say they would like to do with a decrease of $1.1 billion. Is it that you're not going to be having any more new appointments to the teaching service? Is it that wages and salaries in the recurrent expenditure will be decreased? Is it that the secondary school maintenance and training security company will have a lower, if not the same allocation for increased needs? What is going to happen with the textbook rentals? I can tell you from a cursory glance at the draft estimates that the National Schools Dietary Services Limited, popularly called the School Feeding Program, has a cut of $86.6 million from the original estimates of 2021. What are we seeing in that context? Is it that schools will not formally be reopened in its entirety for children to attend, whether it's going to be at the ECC level, which also benefits from the school feeding program, or the primary schools, or the rest of the forms 1, 2, and 3 at secondary schools? Or indeed, if we go further on in terms of the tertiary sector, the academic institutions, the universities, and also the vocational training institutions. I've also noted that the OJT program has been cut by $8.1 million. What is going to happen to all of those graduates? And you recall how many of them graduate from even UWI alone. UWI in itself graduates thousands of young persons every year, plus UTT, plus Custard, plus the University of the Southern Caribbean, and so many others. Where are these people going to find at least respite in employment for 2 years? What is also going to happen is that we are noticing a decrease in the infrastructure development fund by 55 million. The help loan, the higher education loan program, remains the same allocation at $8 million. Things have gotten so worse in this country, of course, aided and abetted by the world pandemic of COVID-19. But if you are maintaining the same allocation, it means that a lot more people who are suffering will not be able to access any increases because of the fact that the allocation remains the same. The GATE program from the previous year remains at $400 million. And again, in that case, you will not see any increase in opportunities for that. The retraining program, many persons who are out of jobs who would like to be retrained for marketable employment and skills development remains at $6.4 million. The MUS program remains at $12.0 million. The MIC craft program, and he spoke about MIC in terms of an apprenticeship program, remains at $7.0 million. The NESC Drilling Academy faced a decrease of $271,000. You know, Dr. Tiwari, some of the things that I would like to make mention of as well is that there's little reference, and we expect to hear this from Friday, when the Honorable Minister of Education speaks and other persons. No reference is made to the failing parallel education system. No reference is being made, and we hope to listen to that too, in terms of the school dropouts. In previous budgets, when you and I were there in the Parliament, we would have had segments and we would have had headings called education, training, tertiary education. I went through the budget speech and none of that is there. What we saw is a number of paragraphs in different areas of the budget speech, which makes reference to education and training. No reference has been made to curriculum reform. So much is being talked about digitalization and digitization. But are we going to see any curriculum reform in terms of teacher training at the training of teachers at all levels in the society, in the Ministry of Education? Are we going to see a diversification of the curriculum in terms of the students? What is going to happen? Because if we are really preparing for the future, based on the experience of the last 2 years, we should see some curriculum reform. No reference has been made to the Concordat, to the SCA, to CXA. I was looking for the allocation of the school bus transport service. No reference has been made to the Teaching Service Commission. A lot of persons have really put their career hopes on becoming teachers, and the Teaching Service Commission issued a release saying, don't send any applications. We will invite you when the time is right. So that there are a number of issues and concerns when one looks at the presentation from the Honorable Minister of Finance. So these are some of the comments. I have some more that I'd like to, but I don't know if there's anything that you would like to raise with me before I continue.
Well, Fazal, I mean, a lot of the issues that you raise have to do with the gap between what the minister has said and pointed to and the reality of allocation. So I think this is a source of real difficulty. But the issues that you raise about curriculum are really, really critical. I mean, I don't know if there's an understanding or an appreciation of what needs to be done in the education sector if we are simultaneously trying to prepare the country for the world of automation and robotics and Internet of Things and artificial intelligence. Because the gap between where we are now and where we need to go is so wide. You want to have a little response on that? You have a
Well,
response on that?
Dr. Tertiary, there is no doubt at all that artificial intelligence will be one of the hallmarks of our skills gap as we exist right now. And it has to be a way in which we can treat that for the development of our society. But a lot has been said about artificial intelligence. I'm not sure that the population is aware as to how much is being done, not only in terms of the wider society by corporations, but also in terms of the institutions that are preparing our students for the world of work. And in terms of artificial intelligence, particularly with respect to research and development. I recall when we were there, I had established something called the HERA, the Higher Education Research Agenda. And we had an allocation through the HERF, the Higher Education Research Fund. I don't know that there's any statement that was made in the budget, I don't recall it, with respect to artificial intelligence. I recall as well, however, that you would see even robotics. We would see schools entering their own competition with robotics. And that also is the way of the future in terms of really expanding production and productivity. While there's a downside, of course, in terms of robots may replace human beings. But if you look at the medical field, and we have been talking about medical tourism, we are way behind in terms of robotic surgery. And as I'm talking about medical tourism, I noticed that there was a statement in the budget with respect to the Couva multi-training facility, the Couva Hospital and multi-training facility, and that is supposed to be a collaboration with the University of the West Indies, Faculty of Medical Sciences, and the Ministry of Health to run on a commercial basis to have an offshore training facility at the Couva Hospital.
Now,
but the question is, we have expended so much money on the San Fernando Teaching Hospital. What has become of that facility? Absolutely no mention was made of that. And as I'm on the discussion with respect to the University of the West Indies, which could be one of the prime movers for artificial intelligence, in addition to UTT and the other institutions. What has happened? There has been no statement with respect to the opening of the UWI Penal Debate campus. So I think all of these we'll expect to hear from the Honorable Minister of Education, because as I indicated, the budget statement has been very nebulous in terms of specific policy directions for the education and training system.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming this morning, and we're happy to have you. I'm sorry the time was so short because I know there's much more to say, and we'll have you on another occasion. But thank you very much for coming. And viewers, I want to thank you for staying with us and for listening and for taking in the conversation this morning. Most of the conversations were about the impact of the budget on the services sector, on the tourism sector, on the agricultural sector, on the education sector. And there seems to be a lot of continuing unhappiness and uncertainty about how all of this is going to impact positively on our economy and society. Thank you very much for watching. This is Brighter Morning with Bo, and I am Bo Tiwari on MCTV Multicultural TV. I thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow. We break now for the news.